and welcome to Cherry Pie Math. This video is going to go over inequalities, the basics of it, and we're going to do that by comparing different quantities. And quantities just means things that you can measure. I'm not going to be giving units to any of these things, like I'm not going to say feet or inches or whatever, but I am going to be using numbers because those are quantities. So a quick recap of vocabulary that will be really important for today's lesson. More than means greater value, and less than means a smaller value. And we're really thinking about these in terms of a number line. So greater or more than, I guess, is this direction, whereas smaller and less than are in this direction here. And that's going to help us distinguish which one is greater, which one is smaller, or which one is more than, which one's less than. Those words are interchangeable, really. So an inequality is a statement that compares two values or quantities and shows us which is greater. And again, we're going to be able to see this a lot easier with a number line when I'm comparing two numbers, for example. So an inequality is just the statement thereof, and we'll use these symbols, and you've probably seen these symbols before. You might have done them in like lower school or elementary school, and you were like, oh, I'm going to put an eye here and put some teeth, and it's going to eat the bigger number. So one thing, we have two ways, we have two directions. This one is the less than direction. When we read it out loud, we would say less than, and this one would mean more than. And the way that I remember these is the bigger space is always where the bigger number is. So for example, let's say I have 3 and 7. 3 is less than 7, and so 7 would get the part that's open. Or like I said, if you did in elementary school and you put the little eyes and you made that little alligator, then the 3 is eating the 7. But if you switch them, if you put the 7 first and put the 3 later, then this would be 7 is more than. So you're not changing the values, you're not changing the quantities, but the symbol you put in between them does change because it has to match which one is bigger and which one is smaller. So this one we would say like 3 is less than 7. And in the next one, we would say 7 is more than 3. We would also see like equal signs. So this one, we would just say equal to. And obviously, this means that both sides are balanced. So I would be like 6 is equal to 6. Or I might also say like the absolute value of 4 is equal to the absolute value of -4. If you think back to absolute values, because they both have the same distance from 0. There are 3 extra... Well, not extra, but there's 3 other symbols that you should be familiar with. And they're really just built off of the other symbols. This means less than or equal to. This means more than or equal to. And this means not equal to. We won't really see them in this lesson today, but we'll see them in other places where you're allowed to have it equal to each other. So like... for example, let's say you're at a restaurant and it says kids 2 and under eat free. It would mean that the age has to be less than or equal to 2 years old. And that's what it means. This can be anything, including 2. But if it says age has to be less than 2 years old, that means that if you're 2, you're not included. So that's the difference. This one doesn't include the number and this one does because it has the possibility of being equal to. If you're lost on that, don't worry about it right now. We're really just focusing on these 3 in this video right now. Okay, so let's take a look at a number line, for example. And so like I said earlier, this side is greater and this side is less. Actually, I should just write that in my pen that will stay instead of my laser pointer. So, for example, 7 is here and -3 is here. Obviously, 7 is larger, so I would make that side more than. -2 And you do have to be careful about the negatives. I know that the 2 looks bigger than 1, but you have to remember that -2 is actually more on the left side than 1 is. 1 is over here and -2 is over here. So -2 is actually less than 1. And that's where the number line really comes in handy, is because it helps keep track of where everything is. Or again, like -8 and -4. The 8 is so tempting because you're like, oh, the 8 is big. I know the 8 is bigger than 4, but that's not true because it's negative. -8 is here and -4 is here, which means that this is actually less than -4 because the -8 is farther to the left than -4 is. It's lower on the number line. This next one, obviously 100 is more than 43. There's no negative, so we don't even have to worry about it. 5 and -5. We have 5, +5 over here, -5 down here. -5 is further on the smaller side, so this would be like that. And then we have 5 and the absolute value of -5. So if you think back again to absolute values represent the distance, and the distance from 0 for -5 is +5, which is the same. So these two would be equal to each other. So pause the video and make sure you understood how each of those worked, and especially that if it's something is more on the left side, then it's less, and if something is more on the right side, then it's greater. So some things to remember: use the number line. It's really helpful with negatives and with decimals. I'll often, like, even when I was in college, I would write like number lines to help me envision where the decimals would end up. Be careful with the negatives. Like I said, just draw the number line. Honestly, it'll help you so much. And you can always draw the alligator if it helps. Sometimes I still do it because, you know, it's kind of fun to draw the teeth there.